Leading All Generations. That's our series at the moment, and today the topic is Make your church a place where young people love to be. In the last weeks, we've spoken about various things like we are family when we are church. We said it's difficult to motivate all generations and to point them in one direction, but it's an opportunity when we see the strengths of all the generations when we bring it together. And we also said it's difficult as older people to reach the younger generation, but it's very important. We've got to get a hold of this, and that's why today I want to answer the question, how can we do this in the best way, especially when we are leaders? And I've got 4 thoughts. Attract, communicate, invest, and then release or commission. First of all, attract. I think it's important that we accept our young people in a loving way. Every young person knows when they are accepted without any preconceived things. They know when it's authentic and real. And for us, it's very important that we have this attitude when we lead. It's also important that in our lives, that in the lives of the church, that we have small groups, that we encourage people to be part of small groups. Young people love to be part of these groups, however, 3 to 8 people, it's their home. What we say, what atmosphere do we present? Do we allow them to make mistakes? Do we allow them to ask questions? These are all things that are part of that attractiveness of a church. What style do we have? Is it modern? How do we dress? What music do we have? What atmosphere do we have with what we do? And the question is maybe, what isn't working at your place, at where you are? And bring some young people together in the team and ask them, are we attracting young people with the way we're doing church? And listen to their perspectives. They are very important. Secondly, communicate. I think what's very important is that we stay flexible, that we constantly adapt. In our way that we communicate is determined by how we think about things. What message are we bringing across? What church do we want to build, and what culture do we want to grow? And I think it's so important that with our message that we have clear truth, that we don't become wishy-washy. The young generation wants orientation. They like it when things are clearly stated. But they don't want us to be legalistic, but they want values that are relevant for their lives. And that needs to be our message. That message needs to be the truth, but also have a package that is accepted by the young people. Church should be for all. It's inclusive. The church is not an elite club, but the church should be inviting. The church needs to have open arms to everybody. Do we have that sort of church? Are we communicating it in the way we're leading? And I think that also what is very important is that we watch the culture in our communication. We should use media, technology, screens. We should also have young preachers. We should work interactively. Things that we've already discussed in the last weeks. Paul said the following in 1 Corinthians 9, verse 19 to 20, and then verse 22. Nevertheless, I have made myself a servant of all in order to win as many as possible to Christ. To the Jews I've become one of them in order to win them to Christ. And with those who keep the law, I act the same way, although I'm not under the law, so that I may win them to Christ. Yes, I try to find common ground with all people in order to win at least some of them to Christ. Optimistic. With this attitude, I do everything so that I communicate this message, and this is what comes across to young people. The third thought, invest. It's important that we invest in young people. When we want our church to be a place where young people love to come, what does that mean for us? It means invest, begin with the young people in my church already. Sometimes I have the excuses from people. They say, we don't have many young people, we can't do anything. But I say, when you just begin with the young person, the young people in your church, you will be able to move things. Don't look for experience, because when they're so young, they may not have that experience, but look for them, look for the character, for teachableness. That's what you need for the future. A friend of mine was a missionary in another country, and he built a church, and at the end he handed the church over to a young man who he took into his home. As a young boy, he had mentored him and invested in him, and this young man became the one to take over his church. If we're ready to invest, it means sharing my life. Paul said to Timothy, my beloved son, that shows there was an intimate relationship there. Mentoring works. We've seen how it's worked amongst our people. If you go back a few months ago, we actually had a whole input on mentoring. Mentoring works against non-commitment. If you want to invest in a relationship, then the one you're investing into is prepared to give as well of their lives. We know that there's often this moaning that these young people are non-committal, but how are we investing in them? Are you giving them a vision for their lives? They don't have to talk like us or think like us, but open the door. Give them experiences. Take them with you when you go on trips. All these things are part of investing. And then the last thought is release. The problem is, as we get older, as we become more mature, that we keep raising the bar to qualify for leadership. And this is a problem because at the end, nobody qualifies. And it's so important for us that we are prepared to take a risk. We're prepared and we say, this person qualifies. He's got a teachable heart. And that's why I make this decision, because it's important for our future as a church or as a team. And now the questions for your homework this week. Firstly, which of the 4 points do we need to work on the most? Is it attractive? Is it communicate, invest, or is it in the releasing? And secondly, is there a team of young people with whom you are in constant exchange? If your answer is no, then you need to begin a team. Who could be part of it? When can you meet? How could this team look? You need that communication of the young generation in your church and in your team. Take those first steps. If you'd like to write to us, if you'd like to come into contact with us, please speak to us. We would like to be in contact with you.